Moving on with yet another emerging partnership, and that's the Scottish Environment Protection Agency. I was very impressed when I attended the TRA's briefing this year, when Gary Walker stepped up and started talking about some of the really progressive work that SEPA was doing in Scotland to address tyre waste. So please welcome to the stage, Gary Walker.
Thanks, Stefan, and boy, that's two very difficult acts to follow. I'll put my comms department in touch with Stuart to work out how we get our message across. Much better than we have so far. I've been working as a waste regulator for about 20 years now. For the last 15 years, inside the Scottish Environment Protection Agency, I'm probably the go-to person when it comes to waste tyres. And my colleagues laugh when they come to me about waste tyres, because it's been a hell of an experience actually, and I don't think any of them would want to be in my shoes, quite frankly. What I don't think they realise is that things are changing, and it's only through invitations to events like this, through discussions with the NTDA, the TRA, and other parts of the tyre sector, that you start to realise we have some common values, some common purpose. People think that regulators are there to implement regulations. Well, I like to think that we get behind the regulations and try to remember why we have regulations in the first place. It's not just some dull black and white rule book. We have to remember why we're doing what we're doing, and hopefully some of that will come out in the presentation today. So I am SEPA's tyre sector lead. I'll speak to you more about what a tyre sector is from a SEPA perspective in a minute. I'm also SEPA's waste and landfill tax manager, so I have a policy. The SEPA policy team works for me, as does the export team. Producer compliance team works for me, and I also have the landfill tax team in Scotland as well. Let's take some of the excitement out of the day and go back to why I got involved in tyres in the first place. This is the kind of conversation that I have with my senior management team. This is the kind of thing that makes us focus on tyres as an issue all by itself and come up with this concept of a tyre sector plan. Some of you may have seen this in the news at the time. This was just a couple of weeks before the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and the agencies responsible for policing and running the games, the local authorities, ourselves, got a real fright when this fire kicked off at a tyre recycling site near Glasgow Airport, and the thought of this preventing athletes getting into the games and the embarrassment for Glasgow City Council and for Scotland, it was too much to contemplate really. After this event, the tyre sites in Glasgow had a 24-hour security put on them for the duration of the games, at great cost to the public purse. Stockpiles. We're starting to work our way through this. This is becoming a bit of a legacy issue, but you will need to go into Google, type in the names of some of the sites, and you can see them from a satellite image. These two sites have been cleared. One because the farmer had a planning development. He wanted to build houses, sell the land for housing, so there was an incentive for him to clear the site. He didn't put tyres there. They were placed there by someone who leased the land to. And the other site inside the shed was down in Grangemouth Docks, and Forth Ports had to pay for the clearance of that site. Again, the operator disappeared. This site, about 1 million tyres on the outskirts of Glasgow. Work has commenced to start clearing this site, but it's not a comfortable position actually, because it's being cleared into containers and exported, and it's very difficult for me to get comfortable with the outcome for those tyres without travelling across to India to see where they're going and what's going to happen to them. So some of this is still a work in progress, but the people who live in the houses next to this site, I'm sure, will be greatly relieved when this is cleared. The site's actually about 3 miles from Glasgow city centre. There was a multi-agency resilience event that ran recently, and the exercise was based on a fire at this tyre site, and they were actually clearing premises all the way down into the centre of Glasgow, depending on the wind direction. And that was a railway line next to it, and the Millennium Canal link as well. This site, next to a hospital on the right hand side of the image, that's a hospital. On 2 occasions we've had illegal tyres, these are out and out illegal dumps, no exemptions, no licences. On 2 occasions we've had to step in because of the imminent risk to human life. We were given body counts of how many people would be taken out of this hospital if this site went on fire. And there was one in Wishaw as well. We spent £600,000 clearing 2 sites. Not just a Scottish problem, we recognise that. We've learned to kind of lift our heads up and look around. It's not just a Scottish problem. And in that, I think there's some hope. We hope that someone else has the answer initially. I don't think that's really the case. Maybe we can hope to develop some partnerships and work out the answer to what is a more complicated global issue. This is difficult reputationally for SEPA, I should say that. If one of these stockpiles, if one of these sites goes on fire, we get it in the neck. It's not the operator that gets it in the neck, it's us. And it's our reputation that suffers. But it's not just our reputation, it's the reputation of the tyre industry that's at stake here as well. Again, this common purpose, this common set of values that I referred to earlier on. This is the recent news article about the Tyre reef, not my words, toxic Tyre reef. The words from the news article, the headline. I remember dealing with Southampton University 10, 15 years ago when this was proposed as one of the solutions to the tyre problem. And I remember reading reports from HR1 for the hydrology outfit down in Norfolk saying that tyres are not toxic. Well, the evidence seems to have changed. And here we have in France a tyre company and the relevant authorities paying to clear these tyres away. It's rather ironic having a reef that's devoid of life, isn't it? And this is one that's going to come and bite us all on the backside, and it's a really challenging one for all of us. The microplastics issue. It's estimated that between 15 and 30% of the microplastics pollution in the oceans, and you'll all have seen either the headlines or the actual programmes themselves that have captured the public's imagination, that have captured politicians' imaginations. You will see some of the reactions to that from Michael Gove, from our own ministers in Scotland, proposals for deposit return systems for plastic. Different issue here, we're talking about microplastics, tyre wear, washing down surface water drains, along with brake dust and other things. And some of this is textile fibres as well. But that's a coming issue. I've got a meeting with the European Environment Protection Agencies in Oslo in November. They're starting to look very seriously at this as a kind of unified agency network. And tyres is what they're focusing on. Credit to Stuart and his colleagues at TyreSafe. This was back in April. This was our first venture out as part of a multi-agency operation to look at part-rolling tyres. The words serious and organised crime group often attract police and other agencies into partnerships. We've experienced this both in the tyre collection side of the business, and we also suspect in terms of the part-rolling market as well. We're keen. I kind of see in Stuart's presentation talking about a national campaign. I wonder whether that stretches into Scotland, and if it doesn't, our tyre sector plan would like to go out with the 32 local authorities and build up some national figures. Because not only is this a safety issue, that is the most important thing, but it's also an environmental issue. I remember standing in Rotterdam docks with a German colleague from the German Environment Protection Agency, asking them what they did with waste tyres about 12 years ago. And he said, well, of course they're not waste, we send them to you. And they don't last very long, and they become waste in our country really quickly, much quicker than a new tyre. So there's an environmental kind of concern, a resource efficiency concern there from our perspective. I have to say that as a young man, I did buy part loans of people in my Golf GTI. If only I'd known, if I'd seen Stuart's presentation, I don't think I would have. And again, this is the headline from the Times, relates to the Tyre factory in Scotland, and the threat from cheap imported tyres that perhaps don't last as long. Someone said to me, this may not be right, you last a third of the length of the time. That means you become waste 3 times quicker. That means you generate 3 times the amount of waste. So again, I think there's a common agenda there for business and for the environmental regulators and government and others. So that's the doom and gloom. That's where we've been. That's the thing that drives us and motivates us. That's the thing that brings me here today. Where do we want to be? This is our waste and resources framework in SEPA. Like all public sector folk, we're very good at making plans. And we think we've got a good plan here. We've got a good set of ambitions. One that we hope aligns to the ambitions of business, as well as to the ambitions of NGOs, the public, people who are interested in the environment and the future. How are we going to get there? This is where the tyre sector comes in. So I have been discussing this with Stefan and Peter and others, and I'd hoped that our tyre sector plan would be launched before now. We have a draft which will go out to consultation next Tuesday. I will send a link to the various associations so you can have a look at it. Please be kind. You know more about tyres than we do, let's be frank. We're coming at it from, you saw the slides earlier on, the pictures, the kind of issues that we face. We've been playing whack-a-mole with tyre recycling sites for a number of years. We've had great success, I have to say, in terms of some of the prosecutions we've had. That's the second bullet point, a real focus on compliance. I recognise what Peter says about weak regulation. I think we've been there. I think we're still digging our way out of that, to be honest. But I think if you look in the press, clippings for the last 4 or 5 years, you will see that we have had many successes. We've sent 2 people to prison for tyre-related offences. That's unheard of in environmental and criminal law in Scotland. Only has happened in the tyre side of things. We've also taken out many of what I would call the Arthur Dailies. They might not be serious and organised criminals, but they sure are organised and they sure are criminal. They just happen to be, as I say, Arthur Dailies. I've learned a lot, actually, working as a regulator. I've learned a lot in the last 15 years. We've learned that business is important, that business decisions often have a huge impact on compliance decisions. Who you choose to collect your tyres, how much you pay. We have learned a hell of a lot. We've also learned that it's not just about the sites that we regulate, the permitted and the exempt sites. It's about that upstream supply chain and engaging with that supply chain to cut out the criminals. So, the tyre sector plan will launch next week. Please come back to us. There will be a consultation web page where you can respond. And I'd encourage you to do so. Please help us be the most informed environmental regulator in the country. Please help us to pick to do the right things. And please identify partnership activities we would want together. Because that is the key, partnership. I will say one more thing about that actually. It's not a waste tyre plan, it's a tyre plan. Okay? We are interested in understanding what manufacturers and others are doing to stop this kind of problem happening. So we are not going to limit our scope and our ambition to waste tyres and what the law requires. Key activities: eradicating waste crime. We have, as I say, we've dealt with serious organised criminals and organised criminals. We recognise that we've got to do our job. I don't think you can build a partnership or have any credibility if you're not doing your job properly. So we're going to do that, and we've started, as I say, with these court cases. We recognise that part of digging our way out of this and not being in the uncomfortable place we're in, with sites like the Glasgow site, is about preventing new stockpile from occurring in the first place. Yes, we've got to tackle these legacy stockpiles, but we'll probably hive that off to the side so that it doesn't distract us from preventing any new ones. That's what people would expect of us, I think. encourage and support disruptive circular economy technologies. So, 15 years ago when I got involved in this, a guy from the north of Scotland came to me and said, I bought a baler. This is the answer. Look at all these waste and resources action programme reports and transport research laboratory reports that say this is the answer. It wasn't the answer. And what it was in fact, it can be. You can have engineering uses for tyres. I just haven't seen very many of them or much demand for that. I've heard the tyre industry complain about that low value end use for their highly prized labelled product. It also became a great cover for criminals. Very needy stockpiles of tyres with no end market. So we're looking to do something better than that. Probably the best thing that happens environmentally at the moment is their use as a fuel. Can we do something better? Pyrolysis. People talk to us about tyre pyrolysis. And I get two different sides to the story. Some people say this is the answer, some people say it's not. Please help us to understand where the next opportunities are. Because if you don't come up with the ideas, someone else is going to come along and disrupt your business model and give you the answer. Engaging the tyre manufacturers to work out how we treat tyres as a resource, not just a working some waste problem is a key part of this as well. And we will be outcome focused. This isn't about, as I say, the regs and what the regs say and what the regs require. We're human beings, we're capable of much more than that in terms of creative thinking, disruptive, positive thoughts. How will we make progress? Well, we've already changed the exemptions. That was a barn door for criminals, quite frankly, and we didn't do our job. We had sites that were only supposed to have 1,000 tyres on them, and they had 150, 160,000 tyres. It took a lot of work inside the agency to build up consistency across the country, and I feel for my colleagues in the Environment Agency. We're a small agency, 1,300 staff. We've got 10,000 staff. We've got 32 local authorities. You guys have 200 odd local authorities. It's much harder to gain traction in England than it is in Scotland, I would argue. Tyre storage sites now need licences, okay? And that allows us to manage and control the risks, control the stocks. And we don't have Pass 107 or quality protocol in Scotland. We don't believe tyres can cease to be waste. The industry, quite frankly, has not demonstrated that it can turn this material into a product that be trusted. As I say, many of those tyre bales were just a front for criminal activity with no markets or end uses. Nationally consistent inspection and enforcement response, we've started with that, with successful prosecutions, but we recognise in our tyre sector plan we need to keep on that. You would expect us to keep on that. Do your job, SEPA, you would say. So we're going to recognise supply chain issues and duty of care. This is about perhaps finding some exemplars in the tyre fitting businesses, guys who are really good at duty of care, and start to work with them and get the rest of the industry working to high standards to cut those criminals out of the game. Peter says these guys are operating in the margins. That's probably right, but you can very quickly build up a problem in the margins of the tyre business. So if we can cut those guys out together, that would be great. And I'm probably responsible for this. The Scottish Government will consider producer responsibility. At the very least, that's a really useful threat from my perspective. It draws us to the table, it makes us engage and have a conversation about what the options might be, what the alternatives might be. But that is certainly on the table. And the direction of environmental policy at a European level, and at a Scottish level, and even at a UK level, might go over these deposit return systems for plastics. These governments, the politicians, are interested in producer responsibility. They may be tempted to think that it's an easy answer. But I hear what you're saying, it might not be the right answer. If we could at least have that conversation, I think that would be really useful. We're going to change the regulations as well. This is EPR, I think they call it down south. We are reforming the permission hierarchy. The tyres experiences have informed our whole approach to this restructuring of the waste regime for all waste. Tyre storage and treatment sites will still require a permit. We're not going to give them exemptions again. More robust use of fit and proper persons test to keep these criminals, the people who have been convicted, out of the business. And we've got a responsibility to do that. Look at how the Transport Commissioner operates in Scotland with great envy. She will tell people if they are a person of ill repute, keep them out of the business. Bring registered carriers, Peter touched on this, bring them into permitting so we can do those checks on them, and also we can suspend their permits. And new enforcement powers, maybe that plays in at the fitter end of things in terms of duty of care offences. Lots of partnership activities, microplastics I've mentioned, part warrants, I'd like to pick up with Stuart afterwards as well. The imports from the Far East, a chat about how we take those forward. Producer responsibility, are there any alternatives? And I think working with tyre fitters on duty of care would be a very productive area of work. So tyres, not just tyres, are a priority in Scotland. We want to work with compliant businesses. My chief executive, you may hear him saying, compliance is not negotiable. He really means it. He's Australian, he really means it. And we want to make Scotland an attractive place to do business. Not to scare away people, but to attract people who have money to invest in the right kind of technology and the right kind of business, make it a safe place for you to operate and make money without being undermined by criminals. We want to support innovation, technological innovation, and we want to understand what tyre manufacturers are doing to rid the world of this problem. There must be a better answer to the problems we face now. Thank you very much.